Hello, welcome to A Man in a Sea of Lies from Humber Marshes here in South Etobicoke. Let's talk about this war with Iran or Iran. I prefer Iran. Now we're not going to talk about the usual talking points here. The talking points they're brought up all the time in the Canadian media or media that's sort of hostile to the United States of America. So we're not going to be talking about the usual talking points here. Now, this whole narrative that's now prevalent in the media completely ignores the history of the Middle East and the history of war, especially since Israel was created. And the fact that Israel has been constantly attacked since 1948. The missiles have been raining on Israel daily for decades now. The several wars were started by Israel's neighbors in order to destroy Israel. So these are objective facts of history. So that's the history of Israel in the Middle East. Whether Israel has a right to exist or not is not the point here. We're not going to talk about that here. But the neighbors of Israel, like Syria, Iraq, Iran, their stated objective for decades has been the destruction of Israel and the West, basically. So part of the strategy has been the buildup of the military forces, the huge missile stockpile, and the development of the nuclear bomb. That's what Iranian political, religious, and military leaders have always openly stated. This has been their objective. They're not shy about it. They haven't been shy about it at all. Over the last almost 50 years. It's ever since the revolution began back in the embassy crisis in Tehran. So that's always been missing. Um, that context has been missing in the conversation that we're having now. Completely missing. Everybody focuses on Donald Trump and the U.S. objectives and Israel dragging the United States into this war. And the usual stuff comes up, of course. You know, one of the things that don't understand why people constantly bring it up is, the war for. It's always been like that with the Middle East. We're fighting a war for dirty oil, and that somehow is sort of a moral point of view. We people are dying because of oil. Well, oil's been a part of Western civilization for couple of centuries now, and it's a huge part of our civilization. We can't function without oil. We our civilization will collapse. So I don't know where what the point of view is that somehow the fight for oil is somehow immoral because it's oil, dirty, 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 black, filthy oil. The fact of the matter is that all aspects of our civilization in the West and pretty much all over the world depend on oil, right? Everything is done with oil, pretty much. It's not only the hated cars and transportation and stuff like that. Anything from building buildings, roads, you know, mm, producing plastics and stuff. We can't live without oil. So this existential problem for us. Oil supply of oil. It's not dirty oil. It's part of what we do. So that's one thing. And another aspect of this, we really don't know what the Israelis and the U.S. know. It doesn't matter what side you take in this conflict. The fact of the matter is that we don't know what they know, right? So their motivations, you know, we don't know what's happening at all. They could have been ready to drop the bomb and Tel Aviv at any moment, as far as we know, right? We don't know that. So I don't know what we're supposed to do. Wait until they actually drop a freaking bomb on Tel Aviv, of rain Israel with hundreds of long range missiles and destroy it. Are we prepared to to take that chance? I don't know. That doesn't come up. All that comes up is to the criticism of the U.S. on Israeli decision to attack Iran. And of course, the treatment of the Iranian regime of their own people, it's beyond the pale. Especially women and minorities, Christian and other minorities. The women especially. The morality militia. There are horror stories, documented horror stories all over the place. So I'm not sure why that doesn't come up, but it doesn't. Everybody focuses on Donald Trump, of course, and the United States and Israel, Netanyahu. Of course, there is this divisions in the Arab world, between the Sunni and the Shia Muslims. And if anybody paid any attention at all to the rhetoric coming out of Tehran and earlier from Iraq and organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas and some fractions in Lebanon, their plan was to encircle the northern flank of the Persian Gulf and solidify their holdings, in where Syria, Iran, Iraq is, and Lebanon, and Israel, and then the next step would have been conflict with the Shia world of the Arabs. So they stated it openly for decades now that they want to encircle the Middle East, and them attacking their neighbors now because of the U.S. and Israeli bombings is proof of that. They claim they attacked American targets in those neighboring countries, but it's not true. They've attacked airports and infrastructure of their neighbors in the Persian Gulf. So the point is that even if we discount, if we don't believe that the nuclear weapons were an imminent threat, their conventional arsenal was quite sufficient to be a threat. And like I said before, they've been saying for decades now that's what they want. They want a war with the Shia Muslims or with the Sunnis, and they want a destruction of Israel and the Western world. Their leaders have been stating that daily for forever. And Israel being attacked daily by Iran's proxies, Hezbollah and Hamas, and like I said, some fraction of Israel. Now, some news sources say that they were actually weeks, probably a month from deploying a nuclear bomb, Iran. So I don't know how credible that is, but the point of this conversation is not the credibility of either side, but the fact that we don't look at it that way at all. We don't see it as a threat. I think because we don't know what they know, I think they had a good reason. I don't think that Donald Trump I know he's got zero credibility here in Canada and in many parts of the West. But I do believe there was real threat. I do believe that that's why they attacked. But whether it's true or not, we don't know. I don't know if we're going to find out. But this kind of reminds me of the dilemmas we faced back where I came from, back under the communists. The conversations were very similar in a way, except that the official mantra of the communist regimes back in Central Europe, when I come from, at least the people, besides the official media and the press and stuff, at least the people had a different conversation privately. That's not the case now. Now we're blindly following, the rhetoric of the media and of our politicians, who I don't trust. I don't trust our politicians at all, because what's happening here on the domestic front with Carney and other politicians is proof that we can't trust them. The double speak, the contradictions are everywhere. They say one thing, they do another. They claim to do this and that, and in the meantime, Carney has done squat to improve the situation of the Canadian economy at all. So, what I'm saying is, I'm not trying to pick a side here. I'm just trying to kind of bring the other part of the other point of view to this situation, which we are not analyzing at all. So there's two sides to every story, and we just completely ignore it all the time. I'm not a war kind of guy. I don't like when people die. I don't like wars. I'm like, I mean, I come from a place where the scars of war were still clearly visible, uh, where I grew up, the World War II scars. And my families from my mother's and my father's side both suffered greatly because of the war. And I've seen the ruins, I've seen the cemeteries, and I've seen the concentration camps and all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm keenly aware of the dangers of war. I've seen it. I mean, I didn't see the war, but I've seen the aftermath. I remember the cemeteries. I remember the tension during the Cold War. I lived in an area where there were several mechanized and tank divisions stationed, and they maneuvered all the time. And I've seen transports and transports, endless transports of Soviet army soldiers passing through the city where I was born. And the tension was very high back then. This was the 70s, right? The height, pretty much, of the Cold War, and the huge communist buildup back then. So this is not coming out of nowhere, and I wish we had a better perspective on this. I wish we paused for a little bit and analyzed it a little better. But unfortunately, our politicians and our media are not doing that job. So it's a sad story. That's what it is. I hope the dust settles sooner or later, and I hope people stop dying sooner rather than later. And I hope that Iran is going to be a free and prosperous country, which the people of Iran surely deserve that, right? I don't know how to deal with the hatred in the Middle East towards the Jews, and the hatred between the Islamic factions there. That's really up to those people to decide, but we surely cannot let it escalate past the point, to the point of any side using a nuclear weapon against each other. It will be a total disaster. But the conversation is, of course, clouded and obscured by our, especially here in Canada, but our hatred towards the Americans and Donald Trump especially, and we can't see straight anymore. We just can't.